Okay, so week three. This week we're going to be looking at static meshes. This is what you call 3D objects. So far we've been stealing them or going shopping for them. Today I'm going to show you how to find them out in the real world, in the wild. And then we're going to talk about how to texture them, how to put materials on them. We're going to teach you how to use a landscape tool to build worlds. We're going to play God and plant trees and other kind of things. And then we're going to get into our first interactions. I'm going to show you how to, we're going to study the third person character, kind of like what we just saw in that last piece. We're going to study the third person character. So it'll be our first time looking at what's called a skeletal mesh. It is something, an animation being driven by a bone or bones and joints. And that'll be in the form of a Unreal mannequin. And then we're going to show how that mannequin can create interactions in the world. And then we're going to take a little break. We're going to demo the lab that we're going to be doing this weekend. And then the lab, what we're going to do is we're going to build off what we've done before. We're going to calibrate the room again. We're going to create that rigid body. And now you can either, using the worlds that you've built yourself or making one from scratch, we're going to show that we can do interactions using tracked data. We're going to be live. You can we'll be turning off and on lights or knocking over things with a rigid body in our own hands and see how we can affect the world around us and the digital world around us, which is also fun in VR, but it's not a VR class. So, some links for you guys. First of all, it's called The Free 3D Models. And you might be able to guess that it's a place to get free 3D models. And it's a shit show. Some of them are gonna be good, some are gonna be bad. You get what you pay for. But sometimes you're like, I have everything that I need, but man, I need a windmill. And the thought of having to put together a windmill is just too much. So you come here and you're like, don't take everything from here, but you're like, oh, well, crap, they have a free windmill, and that's exactly what I needed, and that saved me a little bit of time. We're not teaching 3D modeling, so it's still fine to steal things. We'll get more into when we jump into Unreal. I'll show you kind of how to analyze this more. But there's a thing. 3D objects are composed of polygons, and you want to keep that count low so that we can continue to work in real time. This is all about rendering in real time, and that kind of stuff can slow yourself down. And we'll learn more about debugging that and working around that throughout the semester as we implement new things like particle systems or lightings and that kind of stuff. So I will. So there's also another thing I want to let you know is that most things we make are going to be using FBXs. An FBX is a file format for 3D objects. This one itself is called something else, an OBJ or a .max. There's all these different file types. And before you get too confused, you can always just use an FBX converter. And Autodesk makes FBX file format, and they give you a converter that you can drag and drop almost any kind of, I think, OBJ object file, wavefront object file into here. It does exist, just not there maybe. Here I found one over here. So now I have an FBX converter, and it looks like it's for both Windows and Mac. And we can install this. I'll put a link in the old Slack, and that way it'll help you with conversions. If this stuff gets you too confused, that's fine. You don't have to download anything from here, but I just want you to know these resources. There's a lot of them, of course, you can pay for them, but we're not going to encourage that just yet.
It's worth mentioning in this part that a lot of things that are free on the internet are also in very bad state. So you download a simple mesh and it comes with distorted geometry, or the vertex colors are wrong, or the normals are wrong, or the tangents are wrong. So there's so many things in 3D modeling that can go wrong when you download it for free on the internet. So I think it would be good, and it's not part of this part of the class itself, but it's good to mention. Can you pull up the Simplicom page?
Sorry, I'm in a Windows hole. This just got really, really bad. Okay.
when you download a free thing from the internet, you can browse through this website that is very, very easy to use. You basically just download your thing from the internet, you put it in the cloud free version that is online from Simply Gone, and you click optimize. And just like that, it fixes the geometry and gives you a better 3D model than the one that you downloaded from the internet.
It automatically does it for video games, which is what we're doing, or using a video game engine. All right, so we are going to start with Unreal. I don't know why my toolbar doesn't work today. Windows. Hi, how's it going? Don't you love that sound? Hi, bye. Anyway. No, that's 7, but that'd be hilarious. I should, just for the hell of it. All right. All right. So it doesn't matter to me. I can launch. Let's go ahead and launch 4.12 because the plugin we're going to use today is going to use 4 and 12.
It sticks with you, right?
It's like sick. The first time I saw that, I would home that too for like a month.
All right, so we're going to do a new project. This one's going to be week 3 demo. And I'm going to do starter content. And we'll keep it blank for right now. I'm going to show you to import the third-person information stuff later. But you can always create a third person to begin with if you want to drive around that character. So open it up. You tell Bootcamp to go away. No more vistas. And while we're doing this, if you guys are driving along home, we're going to download a thing called Crazy Bump. Crazy Bump is also free software for Mac and for Windows. This is going to be for how we're going to make use textures and convert it to make materials. So I'm on a Mac. I probably already have it. Let's see if it still works. There we go. This is the jam. It's been my jam for a while. All right, now my Unreal thing is going on. So there we go. All right, I'm going to keep on referring to my little text file of all the things we need to get done with today. All right, so we have static meshes. Static mesh is an object in 3D. What the point of this homework this past weekend was learning that if I right-click inside this space right here and I press W, A, S, and D, I can navigate around. Q makes me go down, E makes me go up. This is how you navigate the world around us. We can move things, we can rotate things, we can scale things. That was the whole point of the homework, was just to get you used to the interface of the Unreal Engine, because we're going to kind of go on and leave this stuff behind. It will always be around, but we're not going to talk about it. We have this world outliner. This text list is all the things in my world right now, and like I can double click on it, and there's that chair that I'm referring to. Underneath the world outliner is a thing called details. Details are object properties. Objects have a lot of properties, and we don't have to talk about all of them right now, but we will talk about quite a few. The first two are after the transform. Sorry, the second two are static mesh. So what is the 3D object that we're referring to, and then what is the material that we're referring to? Let's first look at the static mesh. So there's a magnifying glass here. I'm going to click on it, and it just magically transported me to where this lives in my content browser. I can just see some information about it, like polygon count and all this kind of stuff. If I open this up, I'll see the the static mesh editor. and lets me identify things a little bit more, like see where let's look at the wireframe. We can see how complicated of a mesh this is. Is obviously optimized for game engines, so it's not so bad. It's actually pretty little. Yeah, we have UVs. We take off the wireframe. We have a thing called UVs. UVs are basically what the X and Y coordinates within 3D space. They are up and down and left and right, U and V, because X, Y, and Z were already taken. And it shows you how this thing is separated out onto a texture map. And then how we could, this is done in a 3D asset, digital content asset program. And this will refer to the color, or the RGB information that we'll see on the texture when we analyze the texture for it. So I'll just keep that over there. What is the texture on here? Well, I can see it down here in the details, or I can see it up here in the static mesh editor. I have chair. This is a material. Yeah.
Just say, if you go back to there, I think that's where you're gonna find the main difference when you download stuff from the internet. Usually, the stuff from the internet comes in with overlapping UVs. So
these white areas will be like they'll be on top of each other. They'll be sharing the same, or they're outside. They'll be sharing the same space, or not within this little. You can hardly see it. This little black outline right here.
So that's one of the main problems with downloading stuff from the internet. The colors and the textures do not look the same, and it's because of the UV mapping. So you have to go back to your 3D modeling engine and fix the UVs, or you simply go on and it smooths it out a little bit.
Or stick to just using things that are in the marketplace, or migrating. That's why we start off there, and we're completely fine with creating things from scratch and just using stuff from the marketplace. Okay, so materials. So we're going to backtrack a little bit. Materials are made out of textures. Textures are these bitmaps. These are these PNGs, these JPEGs, these TIFF files that you can make in Photoshop. You can download off of Google and do all this stuff with. We're going to actually do this little search right now for a texture. And Gal, what did we do? We did clay. We did clay. So I am searching for clay. I'm going to image searching. If you've noticed those UV mapping things, everything is in a power of 2. Everything is, you usually try to go for a square texture. And then the way you store data in these textures is things like they're 512 by 512 or 1024 by 1024. So when I'm searching for my tools, I can actually limit the size to specifically a 1024, or if I want a higher resolution, 2048 by 2048. And so now I might find some textures that are like, you want to have some things that are flat because we're going to give it a texture in the world. Another thing is that you want it to be seamless, so oftentimes I'll search for the word tileable. And now we're getting there. Here are some textures we can use, and I think this one will be fun. It doesn't have a watermark, that's amazing. So I'm simply, I have this thing right here. I might want to reference it later. I might want to edit it later. The fact that I can't use that. Find my Finder, and I have my Unreal projects. And I made week 3 demo, and I'm going to make myself a folder, and that folder is going to be called imports. So I found this, my project. I can also have done it through the Epic Games Launcher, and I could have found my project here, alphabetized my library, and said right-click, show folder, and this brings up that folder again. So this is how I find all the content for my project. I make a folder for imports. That way I can keep everything together. And I'm going to... There we go. and I'm just going to call it cracked. So that gorgeous thing called Crazy Bump, it creates all sorts of maps for you. We're going to do it from a photograph. We keep on showing the easy way to do things. Like we promise you, there's enough hard stuff that we're going to show you all the easy stuff we can. Totally. This isn't perfect. It's not perfect, but it's fun. So we're going to load this in, and it's going to think. It's actually a sentient program. It's thinking. That's another amazing thing. But this is why you have to plug in your computer, because AI is really okay. So it says which way is up and which way is down. Black being down, white being up. So I just know that I always choose the wrong one. So I'm going to choose the one on the right because I don't think that's the one it should be. And it will be correct. So guys, when we're done with Crazy Bump, we're going to have this inside of Unreal. Textures are super important to making really beautiful worlds, and it's going to be a super compelling thing for us to mess around with. So here's what it looks like as a ball and as a column and all this other kind of stuff. And we will take a look at this and how to export this. All right, so here's the interface. What it's telling me is I have my my color. It calls it a diffuse. That is just a computer graphics term for this is the color. Specularity. This is how light glints off of it, how it shines and shimmers. We have occlusion. This is like kind of going to be how shadows are baked in there. Do we want the the areas that are recessed to always look like they're shadows? We don't really care about having dynamic shadows. Let's save some computation and use that. Displacement is how do we want it to kind of bend and form in actual the world geometry coordinates? Do we want it to like bow out and stuff? And then normals. So normals are these pretty little purple things that if you haven't dealt with it before, it's about how light bounces off your 3D object. This is super useful for also for generating dynamic shadows, and as basically the most important of almost all these, besides the color information, for creating a great looking texture. You notice that every single one of my my tabs, I have sliders for, and I can adjust them. Feel free, knock yourself out. I don't even care. I don't do it. Just say save. Let's see if I can do all the back. Give me the option to save all at the same time. I can do it one at a time, I guess. Save one. Maybe it's on a Windows. You could do all of it at the same time. So anyway, I'm just gonna save them all to my imports folder so I can find it later. If I wanted to change them and rotate it, or I don't know, make a change to it, I can always refer to it later and re-import it. All right. And now I'm going to import these things into my Unreal project. Oh, this is so frustrating. I can't bring up my fucking toolbar. So I keep on having to like is toolbar an option? No. I think I should have two of these open. All right, so I don't need Crazy Bump anymore. Literally, how to get my project. Nope. Yeah, it's minimized, so it won't come up. You guys get good laptops, I guess. Absolutely no idea. Is it on the? I'm loving it. So, okay, we'll just force quit it and say screw you. Heck yeah, force quit you. Alright. Before we do the lab, I'll restart my computer. Alright, so we're going to import. I'm going to keep things organized for me. I like to make a folder called assets for me. And then inside my assets, I make other things like a folder for materials and a folder for textures, for meshes, so I can find it later. And then I will bring in my texture. So I'm going to textures folder and hit this import button, and I will find my week 3 demo in my imports. I have all these wonderful things. I'm going to say OK. And it's going to give me a little notification at the bottom right that it even recognized that one of these is a normal map. And I'm going to say, yes, it definitely is a normal map. I'm going to save that. I've got my materials folder. I'm going to create a material. I right click and I see there's an option to create material right there. I'm going to call it mcrack. And let's open it up. Well, we haven't really gotten into, well, we haven't at all gotten into blueprints interactivity, but Unreal has a lot of different interfaces that are node-based data flow patching, and their materials are just the same. These materials have certain properties such as color, metallic, specular, roughness, all these other things. I'm right-clicking and I'm dragging around to make space. You can zoom in and out to see more or less. I'm going to push this aside a little bit. Right there. I'm going to navigate to my textures. It's obviously a lot more fun to do with multiple monitors. I'm just going to drag it in. All these guys. Church. And I just took it and there they are. They're inside. And now I'm just going to, there's going to be little, so here they are. And if I'm not sure what they are, I can click on it, and the left that's my details panel on my texture editor, my material editor. It says it is the cracked specular. So I see, oh, there's a specular. All right, well then, I'm game. Let's try it out. And it says, what does this one say? It is cracked occlusion. Oh, look, this thing's called ambient occlusion. Let's do that one. And then we remember our purple friend is the normals. Then we remember that our gray scale one is the displacement. Or actually could be the roughness too. No. And then we have color. I'm going to save. Sometimes take a little while to process. And this little ball up here on the top left will eventually give us what we had back in the crazy bump. So this is what we had a crazy bump. You see how it has dark areas and it shines in a certain way. So we now have made ourselves a material. These things, you see that these nodes have also this RG and red, green, and blue little outputs. Those are the red, green, and blue channels. So we don't have to use all the colors. We can just take the red information or the green information or the blue information from these. And then we also don't have to give these values could be anywhere from could be 0 to 1. And I'm pressing down 1 on my keyboard and I click, and I now have a constant. I have a single digit. And let's adjust the metallic at 0. This is not metallic. And with this selected, I'm going to make it 1. And see now it is metallic. Shiny. And then we also have roughness. Do we want it to be rough or not? So let's just do that again. I'm showing you all the different things you do. You don't have to do all these, just some. So now, what does 0 rough get us? Right? Space, the final frontier. And then conversely, we have it's no rough. This is like real clay kind of, I guess. Like it doesn't do anything with light, doesn't do anything with specularity. I kind of like to put this at 0.5 to make it neutral. 0.5 is often the neutral point for a lot of these values. That doesn't seem too neutral, but that's because metallic is not neutral. And then emissive is how much it glows. And this is where Unreal will kind of take your breath away sometimes. And I want it to glow the same color as the color is for the texture. So let's see. All right, so it's a little glowy. All right. Now, for a lot of you will know from other programming languages that what we're building here is a shader. We're calling it materials here. This is image-based, mainly image-based shader here, but we also do have some mathematical properties that we can add in. And you can see on the right side, there's a whole list of all these different kind of features that we're going to dive into another week. Today, we're just going to build simple materials. But I do want to let you know that if we want to make something that glows, you can use a multiplier. I'm pressing down M and clicking, and I get multiply. You can also right-click, get a list of everything that's available, and I could say multiply. I could type in there. If I actually type in, it's much easier. And multiply, and it finds it for me. And you have to have two values, A and a B. Well, A can be our texture. So I'm going to drag into here. And then I'm going to get myself a constant by pressing 1. And right now and then I'm going to put the multiply, and that's going to go to my emissive. But what is that 0? That's fine, but what is if I did 20? There we go. So there we just did all the simple things you can do in materials in like a few seconds. Just use bits and pieces of it. You don't have to have everything. I think it'd just be a simple color. So you saw how I pressed 1 and I got a constant. I can also press 3 and click, and I have a color. So it doesn't have to be a texture. It could be a color. Click on the details panel, bring up a color. Now it's blue. And now blue can be my object. And blue can be my multiplier for my glow. But it still has the normals and the specularity and the collusion of the other things. Now let's make it glow. Make it really glow. There we go. So let's see what this looks like in the real world. Well, let's see. I might have gotten confused. I might have imported so many things and I can't find anything. It's time to show you two more features of the content browser. First of all, this tiny little button over here gives me a kind of a hierarchical tree, which makes it easier for me to kind of navigate. And then this other tiny little button right here called filters can let me filter out what I'm looking for. I can go to the top level, contents, where everything is underneath contents, and I can filter for materials. And here's all the materials that are in my thing. I made M crack. There it is. I could also just search for crack. You can also go to Fulton Street and search for crack. There we go. There we go. Somebody got it. And now it's thinking. I'm on a laptop. It's confused. There it is. I've now added that, or I could select an object and I can just drag it over. So I'm dragging over to the material. See how it goes green? There I am. I can also bring in new items in the world. This one says it is a basic shape material. With this selected with my material selected in the content browser I want to use, if I use this little arrow, loads it in. Okay. All right. So we got all that kind of stuff. I'm going to quickly bring in a third person character so we can take a look at that really quickly. At this left side I have an add new. And add new, I'm going to add in some features or content pack. This is another way to load materials, load assets into your project. And I'm going to load in that third person. There's your third person. We're going to add to project. Great. And I'm going to filter by levels. I'm going to take off all my filters, and I want to find a third person level to show you guys. Third person example map. Probably going to ask me to save too. So now, if I hit play, if I'm using my mouse, I can look around. I have like a selfie stick attached to me. And I can do the same W, A, S, and D buttons, and it will run around inside the space. Spacebar jumps. If you have like a PlayStation or Xbox game controller, it just automatically works when you plug it in. Just have it plugged in before you open up your map, and then it'll automatically work for controlling around. So now we have third-person stuff inside our project. I'm going to create another new map. And so I'm going to go to File, New. And we're going to create an empty level. Actually, I'm going to do this default level. How about that? So now we have this default level. And I'm going to get rid of this floor. I can just hit delete. There it goes. And I'm going to use the landscape tool. I'm going to play God for a little while. Click landscape, and now I have created a landscape. There's a lot of features that we can use from this. But I am going to just hit, so right now, it has some features like how dense it is, how big it is. I'm just going to keep it still for right now, or just keep it this default for right now. There is this wonderful option to import from file. You can actually import satellite data, anything that's grayscale, and you can actually load in an actual place. So if you want to recreate, like a city or like an island, and you already have the data online, I can send you some resources. We don't have time to really do it right now, but it's a grayscale image, and black will be the lowest parts, and the whitest will be the highest parts. And this is a great way just to, boom, have it done. But I'm just going to create it new, and then I have this wonderful empty canvas, and I can do things like sculpt, and then I can finesse my sculpting. So let's say my sculpt tool has insane amount of options. You can go through them as you want to. You can actually simulate hydro erosion. You can do noise patterns. You can make ramps and flatten. I'm just going to do a sculpt tool just so you see it right now. It has some properties, the brush size. That is how big the circle is. The fall off, that's how smooth it is on the edges. And then how strong, so it's like an additive thing. The longer I hold on to it, is the taller things will get. And this is how, I think actually God used Unity, but something like that. And on the fifth day, God said, compile. Right? So this is the one way of doing it. And I'm just building this giant world that I can then drop a third-person character into, and then he can run around. And then we can, so that's the shape of my brush, and this is how smooth the fall off is on my brush. So I can take these things and I can flatten it out. I'm saying, oh, I want it to be able to be like a road at the top. So if I kind of flatten it off, and it kind of averages off the spaces, making it a little bit smoother. And then the only other thing is, of course, you can give it a texture and all this other kind of stuff. So this is one way of creating a world. Then I have a tab here for foliage. This is how you draw trees. This is how you do grass. This is how you can basically make instant meshes. So it doesn't matter what my foliage is. I can look for grass. If you go to that marketplace, you can find all this grass and trees. But for me, it doesn't really matter. I just know this is a way to spray paint the world with objects. So what is a static mesh I think is cool? What is cool? Who knows? I have one type. I want to paint, well, I want to paint some of those. But I like these two, so I want to paint some of these as well. Let's do an array. Well, actually, I want to have twice as many cones as I want to have as pillars. So I have, oh, that doesn't work like that. Let's see, maybe I could do it this way. I want twice as many as the other one. Now let's start painting. Brush size, make it bigger. And then how dense do we want it? Well, let's just find out how dense this already is. So there we are. I just painted, that seems a little dense to me. I think I'm going to get on to 0.1. So this is half as dense. This can be anything you want it to be. It could be like trees and foliage, or it depends on the world you want to build. This is just an abstract way of building a world. You know, you can have something that's representative of a mocap space that's close by, and these things could be in the distance. You don't have to put it on, right in the center where you're going to be working. This could be a great way to build a background plate. But there we are. We're building this world, and let's see. Save. My computer's acting crazy. This map, it's asking me for a map. I'm going to go to my assets. I'm going to create a new folder. Things are not letting me do that. That's fine. I'll just say whatever. This is crap. Oh, wait, it's crap. Not crap. All right. And then and when you do get into this stuff, you might see that when I hit play, it's going to tell me my lighting needs to be rebuilt. On the top left, you might have seen that before. Oh, this looks really cool, right? Imagine we put textures on these and atmosphere. So the lighting need to be rebuilt is basically it wants to compute how much energy it should put into these shadows and stuff. Does it need to calculate shadows for miles and miles and miles? I'm going to go back into top left, go back into world editing mode. All right. So on the left side, there's a thing called in the volumes, but you can just search for it, called a light mass importance volume. Just saying, hey, this is what's important to me, and it's gonna be everywhere you can navigate inside that world, and I can make it. Fit that space. So you see now, I don't know if you can see that yellow, it's like a little bit way too big, but this is the idea for getting rid of that error message. There you go. So I've told it this is the important area. And there you go. And then to get rid of that error message, I just tell it that I want to build lighting, the little tab here. And if you have any questions about this, just ask me about it. Just think I'll build lighting only. This is just for those people who worry about error messages. I would say don't really worry about error messages for a while. It's just fun. This takes a little bit of time if it's a really complicated world. Yes. Okay, so that's actually probably the most important part that I left off. So that is what we were talking about UVs. I didn't actually show you how to implement UVs for objects. And so I can cancel this build so we can just move on and just show stuff. Yeah. These are warnings, they're not errors. So in this material that we have right here, let's go back to making it a texture that we could see scale on, much easier. I actually don't want to have that. All right. You see on this left side it says a thing called UVs. Let's do something simpler since my computer's slowing down. Yes, we can do that. Save. Let's create a material called UVs just as a test. So I'm going to click U and click in the space, hold down U, and we have a thing called texture coordinates. These are UV coordinates. And I'm going to go bring in a texture. And it has a place for me to connect these numbers. U and V, again, are the up and down and left and right inside of these textures. So we see here that this is the scale of a 1-to-1 UV map. It is 1 U and 1 V. How do I want that to reflect if we have a very large object or a very small object? I can say 0.5, 0.5. And now you see I've made a much larger texture that will take over a much larger space. Go the opposite direction as I say 10 and 10. And now it's gotten very small. Maybe 5 would be easier to see. And so now you see that's the scale of this new thing. So that's like if you bring in a grass texture, you want to see how large that is on your landscape, you would adjust these UV maps. How large the foliage is itself? Oh, sorry, the scale. I think in the materials. Sure. So I'm going back into my foliage tool, and I have these two objects, and I do believe I could say that's the scale is right here. So each object. So if I want to have large cones, small cones, I could put a cone there, and I have different scale dimensions that have different sizes, and that way you can change around the scale there. I'm going to go back. I'm kind of jumping around. Actually, I'm going to restart my computer because it's going too slow. So if you guys take a break and come back in 10 minutes at 8:25, we'll quickly go over interactions, and we'll talk about this week's lab, okay? So I'll see you in a second. And whoever's next to the door, if you can turn on lights so everyone can get out here a little easier. I appreciate it. Here we go. So guys, I'm going to start showing you what blueprints are. Blueprints are a node-based patching system. Oh, that's great lighting. Well done. I was trying to find that earlier. Blueprints are a node-based patching system that is data flow. That is how we could do interactions very quickly inside of the Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine also accepts C++ code. As I mentioned, we won't really be doing anything with that. If you want to get into the source code, I can do it with you on one-on-one. But for right now, we're going to do a simple interaction that deals with overlapping an invisible space called a trigger. In the left side, the kind of the stuff that's part of the engine, I'm going to search in here for trigger. I see there's a thing called a trigger volume or a box trigger or whatever. This is a volume. It's invisible when I hit play. That when my character is going to... So let's start back. Let's scoot way back. Game engines are about physics and collisions. This is what they calculate. This is what they do. If you want to do open frameworks, centered processing, you want to do collisions, you want to do physics, you have to import a library. You have to like build all this stuff from scratch. In a way, you would earn it more. Therefore, you know what it's doing because you implemented it. Here, it's already built in. We know that's a given. Things are going to be knocking other things over, and it's already just here. We just have to tell it. We have to. It's part of the details panel of every object. We just have to turn it on and we have to turn it off. We can take we can find a sphere, or let me get rid of everything. We can take a sphere, and then I can just put it in the sky. And as I said before, everything's about physics and collisions. This sphere, now on my details panel, we've looked at position, scale, rotation, the transform. We looked at static meshes. We looked at materials. The next thing I do is I'm going to say simulate physics. It's clicked on, and you see there's like a mass. When you import things in the engine, it gives it a default mass. You can override it if you want to make it lighter or smaller by clicking on there and overriding that. But I'm just going to hit play, and that thing falls. That is physics, just built in, and it rolls around, and I could probably kick it. Yeah. See, now I'm playing soccer. I'm going to package this up. It's coming to you for iOS soon. It's going to pay off my student loans. Look at this. See, it's just a click of a button. Now, what I did before was I added in this thing called a trigger. This is a box collider or a box trigger. This is just empty space. It's not about physics. This one's about the other one I was saying. It's about collision. So what I want is when I hit this, I want something to happen. To make it easy for me to see, we're going to mess around with point lights. I just drug a point light in there. It's easy for me to see that that is a light right there. And let's do our first blueprint. Our first blueprint is just going to be called a level blueprint. This is a level. I'm in a level right now. You can combine levels and make a world. This is a level, and I want to do a level blueprint. At the top where we've been hitting play, if we scoot over to the left a little bit, you'll see one called blueprints. I click it, and I see open level blueprint. All right. So now we're going to get to our first interactivity, guys. And for those of you who, let's see, where's the so this level blueprint can do any interactivity based off things that are in my world outliner, the things that I want to have interaction with. I can select things, like with the point light selected, I can right click, and it knows about that point light, and I can create a reference to it. And then I have a bunch of, and it says context sensitive, I have a bunch of things that point lights can do. And I can go through all these different items and uncheck this. And this is, the difference between a game engine and then coding from scratch. Everything's already built in. All the functions that are ever possible in here are already available for me just to flip through and search for. I can also, instead of right-clicking, I can just drag that point light. And then now it's part of my code or part of my blueprint. Yeah. Not for a level blueprint. Later on, we'll get into actors, which are blueprints that are specific things. They're classes that you can then place around your world, and each one is very location specific because it's an actor in your world. As we've said before, everything in my world outliner is a thing in the world. These things are called actors. over the week in your lab, we're going to talk about components, and we're going to attach things to these actors. And one of those components is going to be a data receiver that's going to receive OptiTrack information so that you can move these components around in motion capture. We don't have enough time to show that today, but we'll do that one-on-one with you guys in the lab, or I think we maxed out groups of 3 for the lab. So I'm going to go back to this trigger, and instead of bringing in a reference to it, I want to create an event. Events are impulses that execute different actions. With that trigger selected over here, see trigger volume selected, I right-click, and I can create a reference to it if I want to do something with it, like scale it over time. But for me, I just want an event for overlapping it. So under collision, event collision, on actor begin overlap, I want to create an event. We now have 2 nodes. We have a reference to the point light, and we have a red node. Red means it's an event. This is something that's going to fire off. It is, well, if you it is like a single bang. Yes, this in Maximus speed is like a bang. This is an event that is doing something. You're triggering something. This is this is like hitting a button. This is sending something over OSE. This is some sort of gunshot or whatever. And how does it execute? Well, if I click over there, it says this is an execution pin. So when my character overlaps with this, I want to execute something, and I want to execute something that has to deal with this point light. So I want to get a context-sensitive function based off the point light. And I know that from dealing with this, that visibility is something you can do with lights. You can turn lights off and on. So I'm just going to search for the word visible. And I see toggle visibility. It added in this little thing to reference the fact that it is a point light component. And there's this is a function. This is a piece of code that is now being represented by a node I can drag around. And I just know when I walk over it, I want to turn that light off and on. So we have an event that's triggering a function. And what is that event? That event is an overlap. When this character goes over that space, we should be able to turn this light off or on. In this room, that could be a character that's overlapping it. In the other room, with the motion capture room, this is going to be when we have a live motion capture, either rigid body or a skeleton. So there's the ball that falls, and this should turn off. And then when I overlap again, I'm just toggling that visibility. Now there were 2 events inside of the reference. So I select again that trigger, and I come into this level blueprint. We had event begin overlap, and as you can guess, if I look for another event, I see end overlap. So when I walk out, I also want to toggle. So I hit play, ball falls, light goes off, light goes on, light goes off, light goes on. This is interactivity. This is things. This is us driving interactions within. These could be key presses. Key presses are totally an event. I can right click and I can say I want the key of P to trigger the light going off and on. Let's look for the word P, and there it is. This is a P key. P to turn the light off and on. But also walking in and out can turn the light off and on. So this is interactivity. This is coding inside of Unreal. This is, we're not going to get too complicated with this stuff, but we definitely want to make sure that we're driving different things. So I want to see some other stuff I can do with a light besides just toggle the visibility. What does this come from? This is what I call it. So the world outliner, if I want to call this, if I go to this point light and I want to call it Bob, which is a very popular coding name. I go to Bob. This thing is now called, well, it should update and be called Bob. And if I brought it in again, it'd be called Bob. And I don't know what I'm talking about. Bob. 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 So I bring in a Bob. Bob is Bob. But what is Bob? It's telling me that Bob is a point light component. It's letting me know what my names mean. so that I know what I'm dealing with Bob, who lives in my level. Oh, there it went. It's renamed. Is a point light component. It's information for me. No, this came automatically. Oh yeah. It gave me the information. I'm like, I don't even know what Bob does. What is Bob? Well, if we put Bob there, what about Bob? Oh, Bob's a point light component. Thank you for the information, Unreal. You're awesome. Let's get married. So I'm going to drag off this point light component. Seriously, I'm going to get married to it. And what else can we do with a light? So with context sensitive on, I want to see what else I can do. What can I set? For those who are newer to coding, you can set and get settings. We're going to set a setting, and I could say, I can set all this kind of intensity. I can make it brighter. I can make it different stuff. Oh, I set light color. That sounds like fun. So let us set the light color. And we're going to talk a little bit about data types when we get into more coding. I'm just going to let you know that the color is an RGB and an A. You guys probably know that from doing some stuff with maybe processing or stuff. So this light color is something I'm right-clicking on there, and I'm going to split it up, and knowing that I have an R, G, B, and A. And these are values between 1 and 0. So if I want to make this light blue, I would say 1 for blue, and the other two are 0. Compile, and now when I hit P, it'll turn my light blue. Looking over there, P, it's blue. Right, so I'm using a key press. This is show control, in a very early stage, and I've turned this light blue. This is a lot of fun. I remember from my ICM days, my intro to computational whatever. I really like random. Whatever. Life is not about details, people. It's about doing random stuff. So the data I'm dealing with is floats, right? It's anywhere from 0.0 to 1.0. That's a float. And we'll get more into data types later on. I just want to kind of show you a couple of demos of things we can do now. So I'm going to look for a random float. And I want it to be in a range. I want to say from 0 to 1. So every time I hit P, I now want there to be a 0 to 1. Okay? So P is going to give me a blue light that has a random number between 0 and 1. And I'm going to copy and paste, just like you would in a text document. Or if I right click, I can see there's also a duplicate, which is Control W or Control W in Mac or Windows. I'm going to duplicate that. And now that's my value for my G as well. So I have a random red, a random green, and I'm going to set it to blue every time I hit P. Let's hit play. The ball falls. P. So now every time I hit P, I'm getting random values. Okay? Now, what Jeb was talking about the bang and jitter and max. This is the void update, the void draw that you'll see in text-based coding. What is something that happens every frame? Something that happens in every frame in this world, and Unreal is called event tick. And so we're just going to get a tick. Yeah, I right-clicked and I set P, and it's up here. Yeah. And I'm recording this too, so you can review it and stuff. I am going to do event tick. And this should have been here when I started. I don't know why it's not here, but if I did a brand new map, it would be there. Yeah.
Will that, what did you call the zone?
The trigger? Yeah.
It's a trigger?
Yeah, it's a collision. It's a collision box, yeah.
Yeah. Will that see the ball?
Yes.
We'll see the object.
Yeah.
So like if you pick that ball through the trigger.
let's do it. That's how you score a goal in my soccer games. I'm going to put on Android and iOS. I just want to let you know that I can distinguish what actor I want to look for on this node right here, which you may not be able to see close enough. It says overlapped actor. If I only want to be affected by one thing, I would tell it what that one thing is. But I'm just saying any interaction is fine with me right now. It's broad strokes for me these days. But first of all, we have it so that the light color is on every frame, a random color every frame. So you guys know what that is. That's called net art. There we go. Every frame it's changing colors. Let's take away that tick, that update, and let us hit play and see if we can kick that ball. Am I the best player at my game yet? No. Ah! You can either do your final assignment in this class or you can beat me at my own game. Both will get you a passing grade. I'm going to do nothing but practice now. Okay, so I showed you the physics tab, right, guys? So yeah, I turned the physics on this thing. There's another setting underneath physics and collisions, guys. Is called collisions, and we have to make sure that we check some things off for things to be triggered. This box, by default, by being a collision box or trigger box, already has collision set to generate events, but this guy doesn't. So I'm going to say generate events. And this might work, or it might not. This will be fun. Oh, it got wedged. Oh. Anyway, this is a lot of information for one class, and that was so close. And not everything, you don't have to do everything, but I definitely want you to be exposed to the things that are easy to do. As they say in Unreal, easy things are easy, you might as well do them. Maybe I should just put it in the corner, right? All right, we're going to put baby in a corner. Make the ball bigger. Yeah, force fields. Force fields is totally week 5. Let's just make it drop onto it and see if it works. That's my way of dealing with shit. So you see, I have these arrows which I can grab. If I grab in between them, I can move them on anywhere in that plane. Or if I just want to move it on one axis, I just select that one axis. And it's above it. Ball goes up. Yay! And then it left. So end overlap, begin overlap. Now it's back. See, this is so the homework is we're gonna give you the Alan Capro reading, and then I kind of want you guys to do 2 things. I want you to kind of make a world, right? I want you to storyboard. I want you to maybe think about what you've done before where you're stealing assets, and let's storyboard. We want to have, use Photoshop, use some sort of collage program online. Our syllabus gives you a lot of different options for things that help you do storyboarding. We're going to begin to think about worlds. If you want to think about the character that lives in that world, that's great. We'll do characters next week, but think about the world that you might want to spend some time in, and then we want you to kind of build it out and create these. Think a little more about exactly what you're doing. Don't just steal and just prove you can steal. Make something that's cool and coherent, dealing with your brainstorming from yesterday, or some sort of tangent of a world you want to build just on your own. But you can definitely use that for your inspiration. And and then you can do screenshots. If you want to do screenshots again, if you want to record video, if you're on Windows, you can use Fraps free program or Open Broadcast, which is another thing that's free for recording video. I think right here in Mac I could use screen capture recording from my QuickTime as I'm doing right here, and you can get a video if you want to put a video, put everything on your blog and upload your blog, and then I want to see 3 interactions. I want to see, what are the things that you're triggering. They could be position, they could be rotation, they could be any of these details you see, you could turn off and on. Show me that you could do 3 different kinds of interactions as your character walks this world. So deal with the third-person character and deal with what I just did, and show me that you understand interactions. And then on top of that, we have a lab this week in which you guys have already signed up for. We have Yao and Ito will be here on Saturday. I'll be here on Sunday, and we will explore doing interactions inside the mocap space. And with the last few minutes of class, we're going to actually go over there, and I'll show you the demo